Hello folks, and welcome to this lesson on transpiration. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain what transpiration is and also describe the forces that contribute towards transpiration. Now, transpiration is the process through which water is absorbed into the plant and then transported into the rest of the plant, usually ending up in the leaves, though not always there. So the water that a plant needs is not coming from the atmosphere, it comes from absorption at the roots. There may be a few plants in which this isn't the case, and maybe it absorbs water through a different part of it, but for most plants, it is going to be through that absorption through this roots. So first off, the water needs to get into the roots, but then with gravity acting against it, how is the water going to get up to other places like the leaf? Well, some of this is going to use properties of water, and some of this is going to be based on some of the structures that are in the plants themselves. Transpiration is made up of two large forces. The first one is referred to as transpirational pull. This is referred to as a negative force because of the fact that it's created by an absence of something, but basically the transpirational pull is what pulls the water molecules up from the roots. Transpirational pull can also be divided into three separate forces or three separate factors that pull it together. One of them is transpiration, and transpiration is the evaporation of water from the leaf. So remember how you had those stomata and water is able to leave the leaf through them, gases are able to come through? Well, the process of water diffusing from inside the leaf to outside the leaf is referred to as transpiration. So that whole process of water leaving the leaf through the stomata is transpiration. The next thing is cohesion. So cohesion refers to the fact that water is able to cling to itself. If you've ever tried this before, you have a cup of water and you fill it to the brim, but then you drop some water in and it keeps on going and going and going until you get a muffin top sort of thing. That is all able to happen because the water molecules are pulling at themselves. They are pulling themselves together and holding each other so that even though it is outside of the bounds of the cup itself, it's still able to stay and not spill over. And the last bit is referred to as adhesion, but is also referred to as capillary action. In this particular case, it is capillary action, but adhesion refers to the fact that water molecules, not only do they cling to each other, but they cling onto other things as well. So the water clings onto the surface of the xylem, and it is able to climb a little bit further than what the level of water would look like. So if you actually think of when you're trying to read something like a graduated cylinder, you have your level of water and then you are told, oh, make sure that you go for the bottom of the meniscus when you are trying to get that measurement for the water. So when you're measuring the volume, you look at where this point is, not where the top is. This crawling up the sides is that adhesion, and the capillary action refers to the fact that the more narrow an opening is, the higher the water is actually able to climb. So if we put all of this together, transpirational pull happens when you have water molecules all clinging onto each other, and they're also clinging onto the sides of the xylem itself, but then you have even more water molecules pulling from above because it's leaving the leaf itself. So as the water is leaving the leaf, because of cohesion, it is pulling other water molecules along with it, and that's why the water is able to rise through the xylem. Now, the other part of transpiration is root pressure, and this is basically when you have osmosis happening in those root cells, Osmosis is the diffusion of water, so water going from where there is a lot of water to a little water. So osmosis happens, water enters the roots hairs, and those roots are designed in a way that water can only travel in one direction. It can only go from the outside parts of the root towards the inside where the xylem is. And so once the water gets in, it can't leave, and so when even more water comes in, all of that water keeps on getting pushed up and up and up the xylem, and that's root pressure. So through the combined forces of transpirational pull and root pressure, water is able to get to those leaves where transpiration is then able to happen. All right, that's the end of this lesson. I'll see you next time.